Margins are critical for giving us a place to put our marks for our data visualizations and also giving room for the axes, which typically go on the left and on the bottom. Here's how you can define margins and use them to define a rectangle that shows you this, what's called the inner rectangle. I'll start by forking this viz, circles with D3, and I'll call it margins. The idea here is to set up kind of a blank canvas that will prepare us for making data visualizations that have axes. I'll clear out the README, and I'll remove all this stuff from index.js. Next, I'll add a rectangle by saying svg.selectAllRect.dataNull.joinRect. This is an SVG rect element, which is documented nicely here in MDN. Here's a simple rectangle that just has width and height, and you can also specify x and y. So let's specify some attributes. Width, I'll just say is 500 for now, and same for height. And we see a rectangle. There it is. Now the idea here is to move this over and down and make this rectangle the so-called inner rectangle of the visualization. This is where the actual marks of the visualization will go. For that, we'll need to specify x and y, which are the offsets from the left and the top. We can tweak it by hand here to get kind of an approximation. But what I'd really like to do is to define these as variables. I'll call them margin top, margin bottom, margin left, and margin right. Then we can compute the inner width and inner height. And then we can use those in our rect to say x is margin left, y is margin top, width is inner width, and height is inner height. Now we can tweak these margins here, and this box updates correctly. And as a finishing touch, let me just set the fill to a nice gray color. All right, that's how you can set up margins. We define these variables. We compute the inner width based on the width, minus the margins, the inner height based on the height, minus the margins. And we use these variables to define x, y, width, and height on our inner rectangle. This now gives us a place to put our marks for our visualizations, and it also makes room for the axes on the bottom and the left.